name is Delia Molina. One day at a summer internship working in a jewelry laboratory, I accidentally left the bottle near the melting furnace and the labels became unreadable. So now my task is to design and perform experiment to identify the density of silver, rhodium, and platinum. For this experiment, I will be using metal number 1 scale and a 50 ml graduated cylinder. First, I will measure the mass of the empty graduated cylinder, which is 73.2043 grams. I will then find the volume of the metal. So therefore, the volume of the metal is equal to 16 mLs. I will then measure the total mass of the graduated cylinder and the metal together. Which is 242.3413 grams. I will then find the total mass of the metal by subtracting the mass of the empty graduated cylinder from the total mass of the metal number 1. Which is 169.1387 grams. This is the mass only for the metal. Lastly, I will find the density of the metal. We all know that the formula for the density of the mass is mass divided by volume. So 169.1387 divided by 16 is 10.57. We all know that the density for the silver is 10.5. So we can clearly say that silver is metal number 1 because it is close. It is the most closest number to the metal. I will now be working on workbench number 2. This is to find metal number 2. I will be performing the same procedure using the same equipment. I will find the mass of the empty graduated cylinder. Which is 73.7818 grams. I will then find the volume of the metal number 2. volume of metal number 2 is 16 also. I will now be measuring the total mass of the graduated cylinder and the metal. Which is 268.9514 grams. I will now find the total mass of the metal by subtracting the mass of the empty graduated cylinder from the total mass of metal number 2. This is 195.1696. I will be dividing that by the total volume, which is 16. My answer will then be 12.19. I can clearly say that metal number 2 is rhodium. We can now say that rhodium have a density of 12.4, which is the closest to this calculation. So to conclude, I can say that metal number 2 is rhodium. I will now be working on workbench number 3, which is finding metal number 3. I will be doing the same procedure previously from workbench number 1 and workbench number 2. I will first measure my 50 ml graduated cylinder. Which is 71.4039 grams. In order to find the volume for metal number 3, I will be pouring some of the metal into the graduated cylinder. I can also say that the volume for metal number 3 is 16. I will now measure the total number of mass along with the graduated cylinder. Which is 415.1525 grams. In order to find the total mass of the metal, I will be subtracting the mass of the empty graduated cylinder from the total mass of the metal, which is 343.7486. This is the total mass of the metal. In order to find the density, which is mass divided by volume. I can't. In this experiment, I will be performing the same procedure. I will measure the mass of the empty graduated cylinder, which is 72.0056 grams. I will then find the volume for metal number 3. I can say that the volume for metal number 3 is 16. I will now measure the total mass of the graduated cylinder and the metal. Which is 415.7541 grams. I will then find the total mass of the metal by subtracting the mass of the empty graduated cylinder from metal number 3. Which is 343.7485. This is the mass of the metal only. I will now find the density of metal. We all know that the formula for density is mass divided by volume. I will divide 3.43.7485 by 16, which is the volume of metal number 3. My answer will be 21.48. Therefore, I can clearly say that the density for metal number 3 is 21.48 grams cubic per cubic centimeters. I can clearly conclude that metal number 3 is platinum, because we all know that the density of platinum is 21.45. I can also say that metal number 1 is silver, because silver have a density of 10.5. And metal number 2 is rhodium with a density of 12.45.